So can we start?
Yes, we can start.
So sir, it's 3, 2, 1. Sir, we are live now. Over.
Good morning, friends, and welcome to Life Pharma Coalition, our weekly elixir to learning and development for the pharmaceutical professionals. It's said that our destiny is never created by the shoes we wear, but by the steps we take. LPC 125 conclave, which just concluded in Ahmedabad last Sunday, well, the euphoria is still to settle down. It was a gala event with the participation of so many pharma leaders, both from India as well as globally. And we really had a conglomerate of learning and sharing in that wonderful platform, which we call Live Pharma Coalition. Once a college boy gave a college girl a book with a letter inside in which it was written, "If you love me, please wear a red dress tomorrow." Mind it, a red dress tomorrow. The girl took the book and next day she came to college in a yellow dress. The boy got very unhappy. He took the book from the girl and never talked to her later in life. Many years passed by. The girl had got married, and while cleaning the bookshelf, accidentally the book fell from the boy's bookshelf and a letter came out. The letter read, which was from the girl, "I love you too, but I don't have a red dress." So that's why it becomes so important to be connected with books, to be connected with learning. And in case we don't have that amount of time to be connected with the books, well, be tuned with Life Pharma Coalition, because this is the best place globally where learning and development takes place. Upskilling, reskilling, updation as far as the latest developments in learning and sharing in the pharmaceutical industry is imparted by the top leaders globally. And today is also not an exception. But before that, I would like to share the journey of LPC. So welcome to Live Pharma Coalition, the world's largest online pharma discussion platform. And it has become India's and world's largest pharma discussion because of the participation of more than 100 plus pharma companies and institutions, with more than 200 plus speakers and over 20,000 reach on Facebook as well as YouTube. And this wouldn't have been possible without the support of our strong executive member team who are spread across the length and breadth of this globe. And this was an event which had taken place in the month of March, that is LPC 100 at Mumbai. And this photograph is reminiscent of the pharma leaders who had taken part in this wonderful platform, Life Pharma Coalition 100, and made that program a grand success. LPC 125 was there just last Sunday. And thank you so much for the overwhelming support that you have extended to this global platform. In fact, these are some of the photographs which are again reminiscent of the wonderful time we had spent last Sunday at Novotel, Ahmedabad, where Shri Ganesh Naik, Executive Director, Zydus Life, had been there to do all the ceremonies and especially lighting the diya, and we were all a part of it. Well, he was the guest of honor, and the deliberation that he had given to all of us is really praiseworthy. And thank you so much, Naik sir, for gracing the occasion with your gracious presence and delivering such a wonderful talk on Life Pharma Coalition 125 Conclave. In fact, the success of LPC 100 and then this photograph is the success of LPC 125 Conclave. And the success of these events has given us the opportunity for LPC Pharma Conclave 3.0. Well, the venue is SIES College of Management Studies, Navi Mumbai. The date is 6th of November, Sunday. It's between 9 to 5. So please be a part of this wonderful learning journey of LPC Pharma Conclave 3.0. And for any type of associations that you would like to have with Life Pharma Coalition Conclave 3.0, please connect with Mr. Yashwant, Mr. ICS, or me at the numbers given below. Well, the journey would have been incomplete without the support of Imagica Health. Our session support partner, in fact, Imagica Health in a nutshell, explores the intersection between design, digital health technology, and content marketing for the leading brands because they have an ex-marketeer-led team of medical writer, graphic designers, teamers, coders who serve the pharmaceutical for bettering customer engagement, bringing patient centricity, improving control on the sales team, and increasing the return on investment for various marketing campaigns. So thank you so much, Imagica Health, for being a constant support in our learning endeavor. And we look forward to your constant support in the coming times. So coming to LPC 126, in fact, today we have a global team who is on the screen today. And we have the speakers. The first is Mr. Jeremy Devaney, who is VP Commercial Operations, CNX Therapeutics. And the topic that he's going to dwell upon is the UK pharma market and overview. Along with Mr. Jeremy, we also have Mr. Vishal Chandra, who is the Vice President, Venus Pharma GmbH. And the topic that he's going to throw light upon is European business, market structure, and challenges. Now, along with me, I also have Mr. Praveen Pandey, who is DGM International, Grakio Pharmaceuticals, and Mr. Saurabh Mishra, AGM International Business, Otsuka Pharmaceutical. And I'm thankful to all of you for sparing your time on this beautiful Sunday morning, and especially for Mr. Jeremy and Mr. Vishal, because it's not yet dawn right now. So thank you for getting up very early on this Sunday morning and trying to upgrade our knowledge and learning of the pharma industry. And once again, thank you so much for your wonderful participation in LPC 125 Conclave at Ahmedabad. It was also live streamed on Facebook as well as YouTube. So thank you so much, everybody. Please stay tuned with today's session, because I'm very sure that our speakers who are internationally acclaimed are definitely going to throw a great deal of light on certain topics you would definitely like to know. So for the next part of the session, I'll hand it over to Mr. Saurabh Mishra. Saurabh ji, it's over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Arpan. It's a pleasure again to be on LPC. To our viewers, welcome. A very warm welcome to the 126th episode of LPC. So far in the global chapter, we have been covering the emerging markets. The journey becomes even more exciting because today we are embarking our journey into the regulated markets. I'm Saurabh Mishra. I'm an international business professional with over 10 years of experience in sales and business development of formulations. I'm currently working as an AGM international business with Otsuka Pharmaceuticals, and I'm covering the Southeast Asia and French West African territories. It is my pleasure to once again welcome Mr. Vishal Chandra to LPC platform. Mr. Vishal Chandra has previously also graced the platform with his presence. He'll be talking about the European market today. Mr. Vishal has more than 20 years of work experience in the pharmaceutical field. He started his career with Ranbaxy in the domestic market of India, followed by McLeod's. His international business career started with McLeod's Pharmaceuticals in the capacity of country manager Ukraine, followed by Tulip Labs. At present, Mr. Vishal is working in the capacity of Vice President, European business with Venus Remedies. Mr. Vishal is an alumni of Lucknow University as well as Stenben University, Germany. He stays in Berlin with his kids and wife. Mr. Vishal, welcome to LPC. I would like to request Mr. Vishal to just give a brief of what he has to say on today's topic. Mr. Vishal, over to you.
Very good morning, friends. Guten Morgen from Germany and Dobre Utra for Russian-speaking friends. Friends, this LPC platform has been a wonderful association where we're learning and sharing our experiences and knowledge. Today's topic seems to be very special for all of us. Of late, most of us have started our careers, starting from domestic market, graduating to the emerging markets, what we call the rest of world ROW markets. And few of us are fortunate to gain experience into the regulated markets that we call mainly the US and the European markets and Australia, New Zealand. These markets are different in terms of the market entry models, the regulations. So, as a professional, the difference between the regulated markets and the so-called emerging markets needs to be, I don't say clarified, but yes, having an overview really helps to sharpen our skills and prepare us well. So, my topic will be majorly covering to the overview of the regulated markets and give an insight. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Vishal. We would be looking forward to learn more about the European Union market from you. And for next session, I'll hand over to Mr. Arpan for introduction of the fellow panelists.
Thank you so much, Mr. Saurabh. So after the introduction of Vishalji, well, I'll request Mr. Praveen Pandey to give a brief introduction of himself. Praveenji, over to you.
Good morning. It's a warm welcome for all speakers. And today it would be a good example of up and down, plus minus. Generally, we say in every sentences, it's a plus minus 10 minutes or something. So plus is the example. India is ahead, average 5 to 6 hours compared to both the speakers. And India is behind 10-15 years compared to regulated, non-regulated market. So this is the best example we are going to talk today with Mr. Jeremy and Mr. Vishal Chandra. I'm Praveen Pandey with 15 years experience of pharmaceutical industry. I have worked in domestic market as well as international. Presently, I am holding DCM position for international business development and looking after Africa, Asia, Latin America, and CIS market. So for us, it would be a really great to hear from two speakers and understand a regulated market. We have bit idea, but that is just we have heard. We have never cross-checked. But on this platform, it would be a live session where we are going to ask questions. Some questions could be asked from YouTube or Facebook. And some questions already I have generated in my mind to learn about regulated market. So thank you both speakers. And we are going to with Mr. Jeremy Devane, who is having 22 years experience in pharmaceutical industry and a specialized focus in UK as well as Ireland, where he has concentrated on hospital channels. If we'll go with his proven track record, 22 years has given much enriched experience, which we are going to hear from him today. Currently, he is holding Vice President of Commercial Operations for CNX Therapies. Welcome, Mr. Jeremy. We would like to hear from you. It's to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks to have me on board. Firstly, I'd like to thank the LPC guys and the organizers for the invitation. It's an honor to be presenting to such an elite group of individuals. So it's good to be, it's my first experience on here with LPC, but I'm going to learn quite a bit as well. So you've got some great speaker with Vishal and looking at some of the history that you guys have created. So it will be brilliant. My topic pretty much is going to be all about the UK. It's a very broad subject, UK pharmaceutical market, and one can appreciate it would probably take hours and hours to actually talk about that and discuss it. So guess what? I'm just going to focus on the hospital area itself and give you some insights. So hopefully it'll be some sort of use to you guys. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll just hand over to Mr. Arpan.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Praveenji, and welcome, Mr. Jeremy. That was a fabulous introduction from your side, and we are very sure that our audience are definitely going to be enlightened by the learning that you are going to share on this platform, Live Pharma Coalition. So we have our first speaker today as Mr. Vishal Chandra. So I will request Mr. Saurabh to give a brief introduction of Vishalji, and then Vishalji can get along with his presentation. So it's over to you, Saurabh.
Thank you, Arpanji. Thank you so much. I would second the opinion of Mr. Jeremy that it's a very, very diverse topic, and it would be very unfair to ask these experienced speakers to sum up these topics in just 1 hour. But now I would request Mr. Vishal Chandra to handle this tough task and to start his presentation. Mr. Vishal, over to you.
Great. Thank you, Saurabh. As professionals, as I started, we get opportunities to work in smaller markets, then to emerging markets, and then fortunate people like me, we have got chance to diversify our skills and learn new things from the regulator. So, how to correlate with our, family life and day-to-day activities? Uh, as I would say that getting into regulated markets is like planning for your honeymoon. Okay, the ticket, as a dream destination, anyone would like to come to France or Switzerland or UK. The hotel room when you start booking, because you book the flight depending on your hotel sometimes. So when you book the hotel, it costs just 100 euros or 150 euros. But then starts the other expenses. The flight itself is 2000 euros, and then at the time of entry of the hotel you pay another entry tax, and then to roam around to the different destinations, you pay for the camera, you pay for entry. So same is the regulated market. So if you have deep pockets and a good planning, you will enjoy your honeymoon. Else you come up with all your pockets dry. So with this note, I would love to. Okay, is my slide visible?
Yes, Mr. Vishal, you can switch to full screen. Yes, it's okay.
Great. Very good morning, friends. Today, as discussed, we are discussing the concept of the regulated and the emerging markets. What differentiates the regulated market from the so-called emerging and the ROW markets? If we see the breakdown of the world pharmaceutical market, the current level, around 50% of the market in terms of value is covered by the US. Around 23% is with Europe. 15% comes from China and Japan, and the rest, around 14%, comes from the Africa and Southeast Asia and Latin American market in terms of volume. So if we see, around 50 and 23, so around 75% of the total business volume of the current global market, a global value, I would say, it comes from North America and Europe. So this shows the significance of these markets, which have been classified as regulated markets. So if we see the geographical breakdown, how the sales of new medicines during last couple of years has happened. So almost 90%, I would say, has come from the regulated markets of US, Europe, and Japan. So the fact remains, why these markets are termed as regulated markets, and what differentiates them from the emerging markets. The first difference is the requirement of GMP and the site registration. There are multiple registration processes for your manufacturing unit. There is a specific requirement for the dossiers, the bioequivalence reports, and the question comes, why the manufacturers still have a fancy for these regulated markets. So these regulated markets are considered to be cash cows for the pharmaceutical industry. For certain molecules, the profitability is far high compared with the emerging markets, and the export of pharmaceutical products in turns countries' economy, because there are high number of regulations. So it forces the manufacturing companies and the supply chain to excel in their respective fields. The different departments have to be coordinated very efficiently, like for a smooth running, like a smooth running machine. then only you are able to sustain year after year. And for that matter, India is the largest exporter of the generic drugs. Friends, as I correlated with the honeymoon thing, getting an entry, getting a booking in the hotel is easy, but to sustain your expenses to enjoy a extended honeymoon is more important. So likewise for the manufacturing companies, the marketing companies, there are lots of many challenges in this market. First of all, it is a very stringent regulatory compliance that is required. There are patents which need to be definitely followed upon. There are, in my opinion, lack of senior level talent in the industry at top level, which have got experience to work in these markets. So that is the reason that many of the companies, they get stuck with IP protection, quality assurance, and such topics after you launch the product. And with time, there have been regulations which have been changing quite uh, at a faster pace, and repeated inspections are happening, giving queries, warning letters to most of the manufacturers. It's not only in India but all across the globe, because quality part is one of the most stringent thing which is expected by these regulated authorities, and the manufacturers keep on getting lots of queries for this part at every stage of commercialization, right from the time you import the product in these markets until it is sold. Lots and lots of queries on different parts keep on coming. So the other part of the challenge is a very high cost intensive structure, and it starts with the registration cost per product. Depending on the market, it's between 5,000 to 30,000 euros per product, and depends on the regulatory procedure also. And then the regulatory fee is dependent on the number of additional markets. There are, I will have to come to this part again. The site registration process and multiple registration process. I like to clarify something about the same for our audiences. The moment you are supposed to enter a European market, so you are supposed to have a GMP approval from a EU market. So most of the GMP for manufacturers, the destination markets are EU5, which we always start with Germany, Italy, Spain, France, and UK was until now a part of the same. So the best GMP authorities from European Union are from these markets. But yes, of late, Portugal, Netherlands, Hungary have also been conducting inspections from different manufacturing units across the globe. Then there is a registration process. So if you qualify as a GMP certificate holder, the country conducting an inspection can be any one of these countries, and then the registration of the products can happen in any of the target markets depending on your priority of the product and your viability of operations. Then comes multiple registration processes. Depending on your choice, you can register the product in one market of your choice or multiple markets. So I'm coming to this challenges part 2. So as I suggested, that is a very cost intensive structure, and it is under a constant pressure to reduce the selling prices. Other than just the product registration, there are continuous add-ons. The moment you register the product, the second year on itself, a maintenance fee for the marketing authorization holder is applicable. There are sunset clauses, so that if you do not commercialize the product in the market, you are at risk and threatened for cancellation of your MA. Then there are regulations concerning for your packaging. In last 2 years, this regulation has come called as False Medicine Directive, whereas serialization and 2D coding of the packaging is required. This requires coordination with the EU hub and integration with serialization authorities. And depending on your basket of products, it costs 2,000 to 10,000 euros. And it requires specific setup at your manufacturing unit or at the batch release site in the European Union. The moment you import your product, it has to be tested and released in the European Union itself. The cost of testing and QP release in itself on a higher side. Then you are required to have pharmacovigilance setup, the periodic safety user records, and then in some markets it's a payback to the health authority in many countries, which is a deterrent. So cost intensive structure with a constant pressure to reduce the selling price, and companies might end up spending 30 to 40,000 euros per product even before the product is commercialized. So the various markets which are termed under regulated countries and the respective agencies, uh, the best market as of now and the most stringent market is the United States, and FDA we all know as a regulatory agency. UK, governed by the MHRA. Australia, we call it TGA, the Therapeutic Goods Administration. Then we have SAFRA uh, from South Africa, Health Canada taking care of the Canadian registrations, MHLW Japan for the Japanese market, and biggest in terms of volume after the USA is the European Medicine Agency taking care of the European uh, regulatory functions. Friends, the market is huge, more than 200 billion USD market, growing at a rate of 4.5 to 5%. Germany is the biggest market, followed by France, Italy, Spain. And this slide does not show UK because it's just moved out of EU because of Brexit. And the same as market share of generics in selected European countries. This data is 22. So this shows that the Italy, Poland, Austria, Latvia, these are the biggest markets in the European Union countries where generics are, having a very high market share. So on the reverse, it shows that the other markets, they are having a fancy of original innovative products. So, and when you talk about generics, then the pricing pressure starts happening. So as a manufacturing company or as an investor, we have to take care of this market scenario in which you are trying to enter, whether it is governed by generics or whether it is majorly governed by the innovative products. Then there's a system called parallel import. The product of same manufacturer can officially be imported from other EU market if you have a marketing authorization in the target country. So countries like Denmark, Belgium, even Germany and Sweden, parallel import is a big business model where if as a manufacturer, if I have 4 or 5 MAs and my product is short in Germany, I can officially import the product which is available in Denmark because I have the same product in Germany, and then I can start selling. The pharmaceutical trade balance, for our marketing partners, you will get a good insight. So there are countries which you see in positive and there are countries which you see in negative. So if you see Bulgaria, if you see Czech Republic, Finland, Greece, Iceland, you see these markets in negative. UK, for that matter, minus 1,000. So this shows that these countries are importing the pharmaceutical products at a greater extent. So this shows that opportunities, in terms of investment, as a marketing company, I would love to do more where there is high possibility of having a import, and for me it is an export. So I would love to invest in these countries. Challenges are there in markets which are having their own industry, like Germany, like Netherlands, like Spain. I'm sorry, Spain is out of it. Like Germany, which is known for their own manufacturing base. Then comes the pricing structure. So suppose 100 is in terms of any currency is the selling price. So if you take about the reverse margins, around on average of 10 to 11% is the VAT. The pharmacy selling the product would take 15 to 20% margins. If there is a wholesaler, they will have to take between 5 to 10% margin. This is an average indexed margin that has been calculated across the EU, and it will depend and vary from country to country. Because European Union is a set of 32 countries, so if you see the standard VAT rate, depending on different markets, from 20% to 18%, and Switzerland has the lowest VAT of 7.7%. So an average comes to around 18 or 19%, which is in the which is applicable in European Union, and it depends on the prescription product category or the OTC product category. So our audiences can take an insight from this. Depending on your category of your product, if it is a prescription product or an OTC product, the VAT rate would be different. Then there is a very big challenge of reference pricing and reimbursement policies, and the role of insurance syndicates. As a compulsion, almost every European country has a mandate that the citizens have to be, medically insured. So if you're not medically insured, most of the hospitals will not take you in, or even if they take you in, then getting a regular medication from the pharmacies gets difficult, and out of pocket expenses are very high. So because the products are getting reimbursed by the insurance companies, so the role of insurance syndicates is quite big, especially in bigger markets like Germany, where even the tenders are being launched by the insurance companies. And different EU markets have their different pricing restoration and reimbursement policies. There is a concept of internal reference price, external reference price. The countries like UK, Netherlands, Germany are relatively free in terms of deciding the price, and then you have to negotiate with the tender authorities. Markets like Portugal, Ireland, they have a concept of ERP. The product basket is always compared with the reference countries, and average price of the nearby markets is considered, where you are asked to cap the price to that level. Then there is a concept of payback. This is considered in Italy, Romania, Greece sort of markets. If you are exceeding your budgets, then you have to pay back to your health authority. And most of the times, if it is an open tender system, sometimes, if you are among the top three, the tendering authorities might end up negotiating with you for further price reduction. Okay, coming to some market insights. Obviously, if you see the slides, one of the biggest mortality causes is the cancer. It's led by the breast cancer segment, and the lung cancer segment. These are the top two. And some of the segments, the masculine population takes a lead, specifically with the lung cancer, and the obviously the breast cancer is being governed by the female segment. The main causes of avoidable mortality across OECD countries, this was 2 years ago: injuries, cancer, and circulatory system related diseases. And the treatable causes of mortality are diabetes, endocrine, alcohol and drug related adverse effects, and respiratory disease segment. So this would give an insight to the manufacturing companies to come up with what level of molecules and which treatment segments depending on your manufacturing capabilities. Thank you so much, friends, and I would love to answer the questions.
Thank you, Mr. Vishal, for this power-packed presentation with a lot of information to process, in fact. And just like I said in the starting, it is very difficult to sum up the European Union market in just one presentation. We learned from you that the EU market, from pharmaceutical manufacturers' point of view, it's a high investment and high profitable market. Although EU seems to be a very compact, unified market, but if we see from country to country, there is a lot of diversity in terms of pricing, in terms of reimbursements, in terms of practices. It's not a uniform market as it seems to be on a first overview. As far as that's what Mr. Vishal mentioned, that yes, the market is profitable, but the choice of molecule is very important. For common generics, yes, it's not much to do, but for the patent one and for the newly off-patent molecules, yes, the market entry is very promising for these first. Mr. Vishal, I just want to refer to your discussion, and I have one question in my mind. How come the site registration is different from the product registration? That is number one. And how come the project registration is recognized by all the EU members? Is it you mentioned that the top EU markets are like EU5, the countries, they are the promising markets and as well as the stringent as well. So if we like register the product or the site, apart from this EU5, will it be recognized equally by all the EU member states, or is there some different?
Sure, I will have to answer your first question regarding site registration. The first thing that is compulsion is to have a European GMP. So unlike the ROW markets, the major difference is that instead of going for individual GMP, the EMA, the Health Authority of European Union, they have come up with a site registration process. Out of these 32 countries, even if you get conducted, your inspection conducted by any one of those, so your inspection is certified by and recognized by all of them. So you are not supposed to get it inspected by all the 32 countries. So this is removing an entry barrier. While the other costs are very high, this thing facilitates market entry for a manufacturing company. So when you get your manufacturing unit certified by any one of those, so that is considered site registration. Based on this site registration, any manufacturer can, depending on its business model, whether to enter yourself, whether to enter via your distributor or your marketing company, you can start registering your products. Then we come to the registration process. Here also multiple registration processes are allowed, depending on your priority market, depending on the viability, and depending on how deep your pockets are. You have a choice of multiple registration processes. For example, now because of Brexit, I'm giving a real example. Now because of Brexit, UK is out of EU. So you have a choice to register your product only in UK market. Likewise, you have a choice if you want to register X product. You have a choice. You want to register in Germany. You have to register in Spain. So this will be termed as a national registration procedure. Only one country. But suppose you have a fantastic product which got a very decent return on investment, and you like to have the registrations in 5 countries. So then you have a decentralized registration process where you choose one country, just for a reference, if you consider Germany as your reference country. So you file your dossier in Germany, and then you add 4 or 5 different markets of your choice for the product. Those countries are called concerned member states. Then you add Spain, you add France, you add Croatia, you add Lithuania, Latvia. So then this is called a decentralized process. So Germany will be reviewing the file, your dossier, and then these concerned member countries, their Ministry of Health, in case they have their specific queries, they will ask questions to the German authorities. And major part of them the dossier review and the cross checks will be done by the uh, country where you file the dossier. For example, Germany, in my example. So this reduces the lead time for registration and having the MA, because major review of your dossier happens at one point instead of 5 different countries. So, and then when this part clears, then it goes to the national phase. Then, because every country has its own language, they might be having packing requirements. So then it enters the national phase of 2 to 3 months time. But the major review of the dossier happens at one point only, which saves time. And then there is a third procedure called MRP, the mutual recognition process, or the RUP, repeat use procedure. Suppose I already have a MA, existing MA in Germany, and I want to register a product in Croatia. So instead of filing a new dossier and completing and starting a new procedure right from scratch, and it would take 1.5 to 2 years to have the MA, I would like to use this MRP, the mutual recognition process, where I tell that I already have a EUMA in Germany, and then I would like to start this MRP process where the dossier submitted already in German Ministry of Health will be uh, cross-checked by the Croatian health authorities. So instead of taking a 1.5 to 2 years period, it will take 3 to 6 months time, and I'll get a fast track registration. So there I'll have to pay fee to the German authorities for helping the Croatian authorities, and then I'll have to pay a registration fee in Croatian health authorities so that they get help from the German authorities. So if you pay the right fees at both the end, you connect both the authorities and you get a faster registration in your hand. So I hope I have answered your queries.
I believe this decentralized process stops the duplication of efforts, even though the investments are very high, but the system also allows you to, to explore different markets by approaching a single market, by applying to a single market. That's
Exactly.
quite an interesting part of EU. Literally, I mean, EU has always, lead the word in how economic integration can can help reducing the processes and reducing the investments. That's quite interesting. Mr. Vishal, we have received a query from one of our viewers, and he mentions that that is a very interesting term used by you, and he wants you to substantiate on what is payback to authorities. What does that actually mean?
Exactly. I'm a part of this payback thing, and it's, I will say, a type of penalty for doing good things. As a reference, I would like to quote an example. Suppose there is a country which has limited its healthcare spendings to 100 million. Okay, so while you have a budget of 100 million for yourself or for the government of that country, but you don't stop your hospitals to stop purchasing after that. Okay, they can keep on tendering, they can keep on giving orders to the manufacturing companies and placing their orders to the distributors. So your budget is 100, but you spend 130. So you overspend 30 million.
Mhm.
And payback allows you, the authorities, to charge that 30 million back from the manufacturing companies.
Okay.
So the problem is, you win a tender, and the tender clauses, they it's a lock and key system. You are supposed to supply the product. So if you don't supply, then you are penalized. But if you oversupply, based on the orders given by the hospitals, then you are supposed to pay back money to that government authority. And this payback comes in hundreds and thousands of euros. I'll give a live example. I have a MA of one of my product in Italy, and during COVID time, there was emergency requirement and we had to fulfill. If we didn't supply, we were supposed to be penalized heavily. If my product is my product is short of supplies at any time, then I am threatened and scared of penalties. But if the hospitals purchase extra quantities, then I have to pay back to the government. So this is a regulation which is deterring the manufacturing companies and suppliers, because it eats my margins and it reduces my revenues. So this procedure is for paying back to the government authority. Suppose an authority spends 30 million extra, so they will just ask all the MA holders in the market to pay back depending on the quantum that is applied extra. So it takes care of my return of investment and eats my margins. So typical markets are Greece, Romania, Italy, Portugal, which have this system.
That's interesting to note. Apart from the price cap, the government also puts a cap on consumption. And I believe for distributors and manufacturers, it is a very difficult, it's a fine line to walk between the demanded quantity and the over demanded.
Absolutely. It gets increasingly difficult because if you don't supply, you are penalized. If you oversupply, then also you are penalized. So it's very difficult to plan.
In a situation if the demand increases and the consultant at a hospital requires more, it will be very difficult for a manufacturer to decide whether to supply as per the demand or whether to supply as per the tender quantities awarded.
Exactly, because tender quantities are X and demand is X plus 1. So if you supply that excess 1, then you are penalized for that.
Penalized. Oh my goodness. That's why you mentioned in the starting that that's a penalty for doing good. So maybe the government has the intention of the rational use of medicine, but in certain demands like during COVID, we have seen there is some certain demand of some formulation. So that's a difficult decision for a manufacturer to take, whether to please the customer or to please the authorities. So thank you, Mr. Vishal. That was really interesting to know about the European Union market. I would now request Mr. Arpan to take the session forward.
Yeah, thank you so much, Saurabh-ji, and a very interesting presentation by Mr. Vishal Chandra. In fact, a lot of insights about the international markets, the regulations, he actually was able to throw light upon. And in context with the amount of responses that are coming on Facebook and YouTube, I'm sure that our audience have gained a lot of insight out of your learnings. Now, we have got some appreciations which have already started pouring in from Facebook. I'll just take names of few of them. Mr. Shiv Shankar Maurya, Mr. ICS Verma, Mr. Hitesh Upreti. He's a senior executive of our LPC group, and he has appreciated Mr. Vishal Chandra's talk and said that this is a wonderful deliberations from your end, sir. Then there is Mr. Rupak Rathore, who is lead HR of Zydus. He has also appreciated your talk so far. So now to take the session forward, I would hand over the proceedings to Mr. Praveen Pandey so that he can introduce Mr. Jeremy and he can start his presentation. So over to you, Praveenji.
Yeah. Thank you once again. Experience speaks a lot. We were hearing about EU market, not specialized, but yes, generalized for different countries. And we really got multi and lots of insights. So thank you, Mr. Vishal. From here, we would like to move and understand about especially UK and MHRA standards. So I would like to invite Mr. Jeremy and would like to hear from him. Thank you so much, Mr. Jeremy.
Thank you, Praveen. Let me just share my screen. You okay, guys? Could see my screen?
Yes, it is visible.
Brilliant. Okay, so thank you everybody for the introduction. So again, I'm Jeremy Devaney. So I'm Commercial Operations VP at CNX Therapeutics. And the topic of my discussion is going to be about the UK pharmaceutical market, an overview itself. But like I said, it's a very broad market, so I'm just going to stick with the hospital's focus itself. So there's a lot in there that, I'm sure will be useful for everybody. So before I start, these are some of the touch points I'm going to, stick to. Spend a couple of minutes on the company that I currently work for. I'll be moving on to the actual topic with the demographics and the health spend within the UK. Like Praveen mentioned, the regulations with the MHRA. An important aspect of the overall business within the UK is the distribution pathway of medicines. Then I'll go into the nitty-gritty and something that, close to my heart, which is the commercial activity, as in the focus on hospitals. And finally, the challenges and opportunities that exist within the UK. So a little bit about our company, CNX Therapeutics. And as with the name, CNX itself, it's pretty much a CNS-driven company. We commercialize a product called Latuda, which is lurasidone in Europe, that we sell through our direct markets, as well as we sell through partners in the indirect markets. With us, we have the backing of a private equity company called Inflexion, and they are a global firm that currently owns us. But as one would know with PE companies, guess what? Their strategy is always buy and build, and that's how they grow the business itself. And just in July 29, last month, CNX Therapeutics acquired a hospital-based company called Synchrony, who specialize in the development and commercialization of niche injectable hospitals. So you can see hospital playing a big focus within many companies, not only CNX itself in the UK. So I'll move on to the main topic of the conversations or the discussion today is the spend.
Mr. Zaremi, sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
Just zoom your presentation and on full screen.
Yeah, put it on the slideshow.
If possible, make it on full screen.
Can you see that? Is that all right?
On the lower right side of your screen,
Yeah.
you can see that full screen.
I've got it on full screen.
No, from the PPT slide.
Yes. Downside, it's a full screen. It would be more visible actually.
Yes, exactly, this one.
Yeah. Is that okay? Is that clear enough, guys?
Yeah, please
Oh.
continue. I think
It's hanged.
I've got it on full screen.
Let's
Move
continue
on.
with this. It will take time, maybe.
The slides are visible. You can continue. It's
Yeah.
taking time to go full screen. You can continue,
Okay.
Mr. Jeremy.
Right. So starting on to the main topic of the discussion itself is around the expenditure of drugs within the UK. And this is an interesting aspect because relating back to what Vishal said in his slides, on the importations, on India being one of the largest exporter of drugs. You can see from the UK itself on drugs, there's been in 2020 around 41 billion pounds worth of turnover on drugs itself. And this accounts to, within the NHS, 98% of the UK prescription medicines market, which basically makes it the 6th largest pharmaceutical market in the world. That's quite staggering figures. But more importantly, you could see with the drugs that are manufactured, around 24 billion pounds worth of products were actually exported out of the UK. Likewise, the importation is around, 21.5 billion pounds that are being imported on drugs into the UK itself. So this makes it, it's a big market for anybody wanting to import drugs, export drugs and bring it back into the UK. So it makes it a very viable market itself. I will move on to the next aspect. Again, with the health spend. So the DHSC, which is the Department of Health and Social Care Spending that manages all the expenditure of the drugs, reports in 2021, the core expenditure was around 145 billion pounds on all services, anything associated within the NHS. Again, COVID played a big aspect of it in 2021, which accounts to about 50 million additional spend on the core services. But this is projected in 2024 to 2025 on the core services being 176 billion pounds worth of expenditure on the NHS. Now, why is that, one would ask? What makes it such a big spend in the NHS market? And this is basically down to the domestic demand of pharmaceutical product, through the rising prevalence in chronic diseases. Mr. Vishal, going back to his slide as well, has said the same thing, right? Cancer is huge, continues to rise in the UK. Breast, prostate, colorectal cancers, all these account to around 50% of the cancers itself within the UK. Diabetes, that's across the globe, but in the UK, that has become a big phenomenon. It's doubled in the last 20 years. And I've seen reports where it's going to double by 2035. So all this expenditure, right, is continued to rise because of the increased number of patients.
Mr. Jeremy, I think your slide has got stuck. We need to restart something.
Has it?
Close for 1 minute and reshare.
Yeah, now it's starting working.
It's fine.
Yeah, now it's okay. Jeremy, let's start. This is okay. This is fine.
You okay? Right.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Okay. So I'm moving on to the next aspect of it, which is the UK regulations. A lot of people have already pointed out the MHRA plays an key aspect in the overall regulations of the United Kingdom. But more importantly, the MHRA now is the standalone medicines and devices regulator for the UK itself post-Brexit, which was the 1st of January. And in addition, Northern Ireland, which was part of the United Kingdom, they will continue to have the EU regulatory regime, but its national competent authority will still remain the MHRA. Now, this is an interesting aspect of it in terms of the regulations. So how does the MHRA now support this, these new national applications of submissions? And the MHRA has created something as a 150-day assessment period for medicines, start post the Brexit. And this is mainly for the high quality marketing authorization applications. So this is for UK MAs, Great Britain marketing authorizations, as well as the Northern Ireland marketing authorizations. It's important to know that this application process is mainly for the new active substances or biosimilar products, as well as the existing substances. So you can see the role the MHRA is assisting because of us coming out of the EU, this new 150-day assessment timeline. I'm going to move on to the next slide. Oh, sorry, just 1 second. Right, so the next point of the topic is that I was going to touch on is the distribution of pathway of medicines. Firstly, I appreciate it's a very busy slide. There's a lot to take in out there, but I think it's important to understand the flow of products within the various channels in the UK. It's kind of important, and not only important, but you could see a number of companies adopt this particular process, or they may add on their own additional distribution side. So from
Mr. Jeremy, sorry to interrupt you. There is some issue with your slides. They are not visible to us.
It's not moving.
What I'll suggest is you stop sharing. I'll share the slides from my system.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Just give me a second.
Yeah.
Yeah, is it visible now?
Yeah.
Yes, it's fine.
Yeah. Are we starting from this slide, Mr. Jeremy? Or should
I've moved on from this slide to the next one.
Okay, we'll start. Yes, please continue.
Just please clicking, just get the whole slide if you don't mind. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Brilliant. So apologies, guys. There's slight problems out there, but right. So I'll let me stick back to the slide. So starting what I said previously, the UK map itself, which is the pathway of medicines, it's quite a busy slide, like I said, but it's important for us to understand the flow of medicines into the UK end users. And for us, there are two categories of products, one being the generics and other being the brands itself. You could see, there are a few channels that clearly are focused both on the generics as well as the channels on the brands. And products that are pharmacy focused or hospital focused or branded generic have their own set of end users. So in order to get a pharmacy focused drug right down to pharmacy, you need to get a specialized wholesaler. And these are where companies that just specialize within delivering product directly from the pharmacy, from the supplier, all the way to pharmacies. Likewise, with hospitals, you've got to have a distributor that provides these, that ends up distributing the products not only directly into the hospital, but within the departments of the hospitals. So wholesalers may just get it to the procurement or to the pharmacy levels, but then you're going now to write individual theaters and stuff like that, where hospitals end up using the drug. A branded generic, something similar, but with the branded generic, as with the brands, you definitely need the assistance of a clinical sales team that ultimately ensure that products get through a CCG or a clinical commissioning group, as well as the hospitals itself. Moving on to the branded section, again, you've got the oral dose and the injectable products. Both are managed through distributors as well. But, and again, in addition to that, you definitely have to have a CCG, a clinical sales team that gets the products directly onto the CCG portfolios itself. So can I move on to the next one, please? Perfect, thank you. So now I come into the main hub of commercial activity. Like I said, something close to my heart, something I've been responsible for or managing for a number of years. So products within the hospitals, any products that are brought within the hospitals are managed through a tender process itself. We spoke a lot about, I know Vishal spoke a lot about tenders. The UK tender system is massive. It's managed through a number of different protocols, and I'll mention to you in the coming of slides. For us, everything is managed by the Department of Health and Social Care, which is NHS England. And they have a body called the CMU, still the Department of Health. This is the government authorities that are right on top, that manages the tenders on behalf of the NHS itself. This company, not only once published the tender, they negotiate the prices with the suppliers. And once the prices are agreed, those prices are then set up within the hospitals, and the hospitals purchase from the suppliers. So you can see they don't get actively involved with the purchasing or hospital placing it through them. The hospitals end up buying it directly with the suppliers, and then the suppliers have their own invoicing. So this is an important aspect, for a number of things. You've got, the compliance, you've got the anti-bribery that comes into this. So everything is managed by the government through the Department of Health and Social Care. To the next one, please, Saurabh. Just carry on. So, okay, so this is what I wanted to touch base on the tenders itself. Now, there's a term used within tendering within the UK is where you get into the nitty-gritty stuff of managing it. So I'm going to focus a little bit on England, because about 85% of the business that happens within the UK from a hospital perspective is driven mainly down in England itself. And I put up a map. So you could see from this map itself, the England, prior to the year 2000 had about 10 different regions, and each region used to have their own tendering process. A lot has been streamlined itself within England. And now with the current, the current CMU decided to consolidate those 6 regions, consolidate those 10 regions into 6 regions from a tendering perspective. So it makes it easier to buy. They get better prices because of the volumes that they've now clubbed it rather than having single regions. So I mentioned previous slides, the tenders are quite, vast, quite expansive on where these are looked at. And England focuses on 4 types of tenders. We've got a generics medicine tender for both the oral dose and the injectable. You've got a branded tender. It's an interesting aspect. Questions could be raised as to why do you have a branded tender when you're only the sole supplier in the market? You've got a transitional tender. It's an interesting one, transitional tender, and the way that works. But then finally, you've also got a specialist medicines tender. So I'll touch base on a little bit on, or give you some little insight into the next slide itself on these individual tenders. Thank you. So generic medicines. So if you go back to the point to my previous slide, those 10 regions have been clubbed into 6 regions. Guess what the NHS have now done? In order to get better value for their drugs, get more savings for the NHS, they've clubbed those 6 regions into 3 regions. And they are termed as waves. So in the UK, you have a wave of tenders. So you'll have one lot being the northwest of England and London North, the central and southwest, and London South and Northeast. All 3 have waves, each have their own timings. And the main reason for that is that the NHS can get more, more value for their products, get more savings itself. The generic medicines tenders is, like I said, is for both injectable as well as the oral dose for England. Branded medicines, now branded medicines tender. This is an interesting one. Why would you want to have a branded medicine tender when you're the sole supplier out there, like I mentioned earlier? And this is something the NHS or the CMU tried to put out there, is to see, if companies want to reduce their prices from a hospital perspective. You may get an increased price on a retail side, but you may not get anything from, you may want to discount something for the hospitals itself. Well, that is the understanding from the NHS. Does it happen? In theory, some of them follow that particular procedure, but not many companies do go down that route. I pointed out transitional medicines. So transitional medicines tender is I've not seen this tender in any other countries, or this sort of tender in any other countries. And I'll tell you why. This is the way the NHS have introduced this tender, is products that are off patent or coming off patent, that, customers or hospitals that were buying brands, they do not know what volumes of those brands can shift to a generic. So they usually put out a transitional tender to say, right, this is the tender, it's for 12 months. We have listed it as a generic, and we want to see hospitals moving from a brand to a generic and what sort of volumes can actually come out of that. So that's a transitional tender. A specialist medicines tender, again, a unique tender. What does this mean, a specialist medicines tender, you may say? And key here is the award system on a specialist medicines tender is multiple. So it's not a sole award to a particular company for some drugs. Now, the reason being that is because you will have, whilst the tender may be for a drug, I've listed an image there, you may need an apparatus to actually support that drug. So companies, if your drug doesn't fit that apparatus, then you're not going to sell that. So what they end up doing, they end up giving a multiple award, even though the price is quite high. And it's down to the clinical sales teams to actually go in and push that particular product within hospitals. Can I move to the next week, please, Sarah? So that was England. What is the devolved nations? Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland. This is interesting because they've just got one tender, each of them. They have managed, whilst it's managed by the whole Department of Health and Social Care, it's run, they do have their own individual health companies, something similar to the commercial medicines unit that published the tender. And they have, their own generic as well as a branded tender. It's pretty much a simple process for 2 years itself on both the generic as well as the branded tender. And the brands that they don't have on tender, they end up buying from wholesalers or distributors that is currently, that have them associated with there. Right. Sorry, I think apologies that they had a change in my earlier presentation. So this is interesting. There are a few marks. So these are the challenges and opportunities in the UK. One thing as a takeaway for companies that are planning to come into the UK, this is the slide that I would probably focus on. This is the aim that you would have to have at the back of your mind when you're getting into the UK. How does this affect us as a company? What are the government powers that are actually going to apply to us as drugs? There are a number of things. You got a drug tariff reform. You got de-prescribing initiatives. You've got a voluntary scheme, and this is based on what Vishal said in the earlier one called a clawback. Here we've got something called a VPAS. Now that affects brands. So companies thinking of launching brands in the UK, you've got to think that anything above £5 million of brands, you've got to pay a fee to the government. And that fee is around 33%. So you've got to think, okay, if you're launching a brand, that's how much you're going to spend. You've got price interventions. The DHNSE can, if you're thinking of coming in with a price on a generic or a hospital drug of X amount on a certain special formulation, the DHSE can intervene and say, no, that price is too high. You've got to drop that price. So they take a whole number of factors into consideration. And more importantly, the continuity of supply. Unless you've got that, it's for companies to come in, the critical criteria within the NHS is you've got to be holding 6 months worth of supply. You've got to prove that you have 6 months of supply as a stock holding before you can actually start tendering. So all these five powers that the government has actually put in is key for drugs that are, whether it be generics, brands, or it being a hospital focused on generics or brands. So I think this is the last slide of that. I'm happy to take any questions, but no, thank you for that. And apologies for the break in the slides itself.
Thank you, Jeremy. It's okay. That's why we keep a backup to avoid these situations. And over to you, Mr. Praveen.
Yeah, thank you. It was really insightful stories and full with information. Many people has appreciated on YouTube. I would like to say thank you to them. It's Mr. Vivek Chandra, Mr. Vikramaditya Jha, Mr. Mukesh Natekar, Mr. Abid Hussain, Mr. Dinesh Gopal, Mr. Vinod Dua, Mr. Bharat Solanki. Thank you so much for all appreciation, and be kind on our YouTube. Here, one viewers has asked, because the session has been in depth with mostly considered tender, pricing, NHS. So he would like to understand the ratio of trade and tender in UK.
Trade and tender in the UK. So the hospital business versus the retail business. Is that what you're asking? And I think that's a good question. See, the hospital business, there is the overall spend within, like I mentioned earlier, around core business being 190 million. That includes all medicines and services itself. Generics within the retail, I don't have an actual, value itself that the spend has gone through, but that is the overall spend. When I give you the first of medicines being 45 billion odd pounds. The biggest market within the UK is actually on the retail side. And one can argue that is around 60% market share compared to hospitals being about 40%. In terms of drugs, Praveen, it's important to understand that in terms of drugs expenditure, retail has the biggest market. And that's because of the likes of, paracetamols or ibuprofens, anything that, the spend that's actually moved out there, the retail does have a bigger market share out there. From a hospital's perspective, drugs-wise, yes, whilst it holds the lesser amount of being around 40%, but the overall services within the NHS, you could see the overall purposes of the NHS spend is around that 190 million that captures everything together out there. I'm not sure if that answers the question, but yeah, that's something could take forward itself.
Thank you so much. One more viewer has some query related with entry channel. Like, what are the different entry channel strategy to enter in UK market?
Entry channel strategy. Again, another interesting question and an important question. So entry channel, you've got to think the complexities, and goes back to my earlier slide, right? The complexities of bringing a product that is a pharmacy focus or a product that is a hospital focus. Okay, you've got to look at those, and there are complexities. So can you bring in a pharmacy drug and capture straight away a market share? And the likelihood of that happening, especially if you're a new entrant, is very high. I mean, it's very low, because you won't be able to capture that sort of market share being a new entrant on a retail side, because you don't have the expertise. Now, on the hospital side, on another front, as long as you can prove you've got the relevant stock holding, you're a valid company, you've got the relevant structure or the end-to-end manufacturing processes, you can, with the set pricing, you can actually win a lot of the tenders. So it's straight away you get a market share of that particular product. You can start getting 33% out there. So which is why, right, you got a lot of Indian companies that come into the UK, the recent companies, I'm not going to give names, who come into the UK and target first the hospital business. And which is why today the presentation is all about the hospital, because they know they can actually drop prices and come into the market and ensure that they get, a lot of the tender, and then branch out into the retail side of the business. You see, so the entry levels are very high for the retail, but the hospital, as long as you prove whatever you are, you can actually get the business out there.
I hope our viewers are getting a perfect answer and they're getting satisfied also. One person replied by thank you so much. It's so fast. So we are moving with some shortage of time. So we'll go with some rapid question that should be answered in yes or no. Is UK price sensitive market?
Very much so.
Okay. Is UK believes in generic product is more better than branded?
Generics plays a very important part in the UK. Sorry, this is more than a yes or no point, Praveen, but UK generics is it thrives on generics, as with other countries itself, and the reason for that is because it goes back to the earlier point. It's all price sensitive, because with the generics you can actually get a better price than whatever you would get on a normal branded product itself.
Great. So thank you so much for this fast response. Some open questions would be that could be answered by Mr. Zireme or Mr. Vishal. Like one general manager from regulatory, Sukhmeet, she has a query related with registration on GMP questions. Like for companies without UK MHRA audit and GMP, they are holding GMP from some EU countries. So post Brexit and future scenario, is okay to get no waiver or indirect registration on the reference of other EU market GMP?
Vishal, you want to take that? You can take. I can
No,
start.
I'll answer this. You can add on to my comments. As of now, post Brexit, it's more of a one-way channel. UK health authorities are accepting the EU GMPs per se for allowing the product registration. So if you're inspected, your plant is inspected by uh, any EU member country, the MHRA accepts it as a reference. But only MHRA inspected manufacturing unit and then registering the product, I don't think now it is allowed. Jeremy, you have something else to add?
No, absolutely. That's what you started off from the EU perspective, but UK, yeah, if you've got to have a complete UK registration itself out there, and the company's got to be approved by the MHRA itself. I mean, the GMP site has got to be approved by the MHRA before they can actually launch products in the UK itself, Praveen?
So it's a real situation. For my case itself, mine is a EU GMP, but not having a MHRA. So there are Indian companies which have a MHRA certification. So they are definitely allowed to register their products in UK. But post Brexit, I think they have been asked to conduct EU inspections as well.
Many questions are there. Before giving to Mr. Saurabh, we will ask one more that is related with procedure of registration. You market if will go, especially Italy, France, Germany, Spain, UK. These five are of course the big. Which is the harder to get registered product by process or by fee structure or by multiple queries? If the dossier is real with EU standard, still it takes time. So it's open question to both of speakers.
Okay, I'll have to answer because as a company, we are trying to foray into different EU markets. Uh, France and Italy are supposed to be among the toughest ones. Obviously, because of language constraints and some specific regulations. Although the ECTD dossier is in English, but when you complete this registration process and enter the national phase where you are supposed to give your artworks, the patient information leaflet and all those mandatory packaging part, so then it comes as a troublesome thing. You have to have local licensing. For example, you need to have uh, a senior person that is called exploitant in French market. So that's like a, qualified person, which is approved by the health authorities, which lies between the manufacturing company and the health authorities before the product is rolled down. So for every product that is registered and starts selling, and before it gets final approval from the health authorities, the exploitant has to approve. And to find such type of qualified people is difficult. Similar type of rules apply in Italy also. You need to have a local licensing person before you are able to roll in. So these two markets are amongst the toughest ones compared to the top 5 EU markets.
Last but not the least, here the gentleman is from sales and marketing, so he's just expecting profit and margin. Which country from entire Europe market could be kept with higher profitable margin from manufacturer?
No, it's quite a generic question in my opinion. It will depend on the product. If you want to start selling millions of paracetamol, but still you will not earn any margin because it's very competitive. But if you come up with a niche molecule with less players and which is prone for shortages, there you might end up making some good margins. The best idea is to go with a basket of products and equate your margins between different products. Depending on one product is going to be difficult because it's very competitive.
Thank you so much for both the speakers, and we are getting relevant answers as well as queries has been in long queue. So I'll just flip on Mr. Saurav if he has picked some questions. Saurav, please.
Thank you, Mr. Praveen. We have been receiving compliments and questions on our Facebook portal. One of our viewer, Mr. Vivek Chandra, has a question for Mr. Vishal. He wishes to ask with reference to the veterinary drugs. Is the process of registration different from the medicines for humans?
Regulatory procedures for veterinary products is relatively easier and not so much of complicated procedures. So veterinary, that simple answer is it's easy compared to the humans.
Does it also require plant audits, the manufacturing unit?
No, it does not require plant audits. In many countries, it is just a notification by the health authorities if the relevant documents are provided. It does not take long time.
One of our viewer, Ms. Purnima Kanoja, has asked a question related to the audits from the regulator? I believe it has already been answered by Mr. Vishal in his presentation. I have a question related to the transitional tenders, which Mr. Jeremy has mentioned in his slide. And he said that it's a very unique thing, very rare in any other part of the world. Mr. Vishal, I have a question regarding this. If a product is going off patent, like in near future, next 6 months or 12 months down the line, what is the procedure of registration? Can the product registered before it comes off patent in EU?
Yes, the product can be registered, but you are prone to get queries from legal entities. Sometimes they may just issue you a notice of breach of patent and
IP rights.
IP rights. But there are good examples of companies, having cleared this hurdle. They have registered the product before it is off patented, and they wait for the right opportunity to launch the product. So you can officially register, but you need to be legally strong that you have not infringed any patent for that reason.
Okay. I can add a quick one on that as well, Saurabh. And I think it's important. You can apply for before the patent expires, but you can only apply as a registration once the LOE of the data expires. So that is critical. You've got the data exclusivity should have expired before the actual product expires. The patent expires. So you've got those two channels. That's when you can actually put in your variation and launch on day one once the patent expires.
That means the legal team has to do a lot of work before the regulatory team steps in.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's good. We have another question. It's regarding to a new practice, probably very common to EU market. There's a concept of repacking. The bulk drugs are produced in some other country and they are repacked in the European Union for terming it as a EU origin products. So how do you see this strategy, Mr. Vishal Chandra? And can you please explain this a little more for our audience?
Exactly. This thing is common, and pre-Brexit, UK was a hub of such type of business activities. Still, UK is the preferred hub that really exports a lot to the Middle East and the African markets. So the products that are officially registered in most of these countries, for example, UK and Spain. So you need to have a valid MA in your target market. For example, UK, you should have a MA. For example, Spain, you should have a MA. You import the drug, then facilitated by the government authorities, you are allowed to repack it. For example, you want to sell the product in Dubai. So if the health authority of Dubai allows you to import the Spanish artwork or the UK artwork, you can export it directly. If asked by a local authority to have their local language or a local pack, then then the UK MHRA allows repacking. The Spanish authorities allows repacking of the product, and then you export it with your reference MA in those target markets. Obviously, this is possible when you have the viability of margins and operations. Because bringing a product to UK from any manufacturing company, for example, India or China or Bangladesh, so there is a cost attached to it. There is a cost of repacking and then exporting it ahead to Dubai or African market. So if your margins are viable, then this is supported by these governments. They give you the COPPs, they give you the certificate of origins. Instead of the certificate of origin being shown as India or Bangladesh, the MHR allows that now the product is a UK product. So you can export it further, showing it as a UK product, facilitated by the government of UK. So this is possible.
One last question for both esteemed speakers. This question is a generic one from the point of view of an Indian manufacturer. We are seeing that a lot of countries are giving emphasis on local production. So from an Indian manufacturer's point of view, what are his advantages while entering into UK and the EU market?
Yeah, I can start with that. Yes, that's an interesting one, I think, but we've already seen a number of local companies, as in the Indian companies, already enter into the UK itself. I think the biggest advantage that the Indian companies have about the local companies in the UK is the pricing structure itself. Products can be manufactured at a very low price itself. You've got the resources there. You have many companies who have back offices in India. So the whole resource structure is much cheaper down there itself compared to having any manufacturing plants or whatever we've got here in the UK. So whilst the UK expects that they want to look at local manufacturing, they do understand, or they do accept that products are manufactured cheaper in other countries, that and that's the way the world works itself. And from a UK's perspective, I think costs are the key. So any company, as long as what I'm trying to get the word, as long as that it proves itself and it shows that it has all the relevant stock holdings and is approved and everything, the MHRA and the NHS accept companies out there. So that's in itself is a straight plus point for companies entering into the UK.
I like to add on the products that are manufactured locally in the EU region. So these companies are supported with uh, uh, these manufacturers are supported by the governments by having mutual contract and mutual recognitions. These companies are given subsidies and rebates in their import duties in the target markets. For example, if a product is manufactured in Germany and a non-EU country like Macedonia wants to import the product, so at the time of import from Germany to Macedonia, a rebate of 5% in the VAT is given. So 5% in terms of margin is quite a big discount, and it can be a big factor in winning of tenders and everything. So preferential, business deal is allowed by giving such type of discounts if a product is locally manufactured. So if a product is imported from India to Germany and then sent to Macedonia, you won't be allowed that 5% discount. So this is called Euro 1, which is applicable in Europe, Euro 1 certification. So if a product is locally manufactured, then to the other importing countries where you have the pact, the intergovernment pacts, there you are giving discount in the import duties.
Thank you, gentlemen. I believe it's safe to conclude that the pricing is the biggest advantage which Indian manufacturers have over the EU manufacturers. That's one single motivation that translates into profitability for Indian manufacturers. Thank you so much for a deliberation. I would now like to hand over the screen to Mr. Arpan. The time is not allowing us to extend more discussions. So over to you, Mr. Arpan.
Yeah, thank you so much, Saurabh. A very insightful discussion today. In fact, I think a lot of queries which were there in the minds of our audience. I think our two wonderful speakers have tried to put the queries at rest by giving their solutions and the learnings. And the number of questions that were coming up on the different social platforms like Facebook and YouTube is itself reminiscent of the interest that this session has generated among the audience. So thank you so much, both of you, Mr. Jeremy and Mr. Vishal, for being such a wonderful speaker and trying to bring out the different nuances which are there in case of international marketing. So people who are very interested in entering into the European markets, I think this session has given them lots of insights about the do's and don'ts and what are the things that they should look forward while entering into the European markets. So now it's time for me to thank our support partners, that is Imagica Health, for constantly being a support for us. Thank you so much, and we look for your support in our coming sessions as well. But before that, I would like to ask Mr. Jeremy that this has been his debut as far as LPC is concerned. So what is his learning from today's session on LPC? Over to you, Jeremy.
Oh, wow, that's yeah, putting me on the spot there. Thank you, Arpan. No, it's been a brilliant learning. I mean, I get to interact with amazing panels and audiences of you guys. I did a bit of research obviously into the learning platform. And there's quite a bit, actually, that's an unknown. Even when I posted it on my LinkedIn, I had queries or we've not known about this learning platform. So that's a good learning experience, something I'll take on going forward. So I may not be able to attend, won't be able to wake up at 5 in the morning every Sunday, but for sure, I'll be looking at the learning platforms going forward itself. So it's been brilliant.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jeremy. Probably it's now 6:30 or 7 your time. And it's probably the best time you can go for a morning walk. So thank you so much for delivering such wonderful insights from UK. And the best part that I know about you is that you got your roots in India itself, in Bangalore, right? So
I do,
that's
yes.
why.
I do.
Yes. So that's why we're looking forward to your visit to India in December this year, so that you can celebrate Christmas the Indian way, right?
Brilliant.
So
Absolutely.
yeah, looking forward. Thank you so much, Jeremy, and we are expecting your presence on LPC once again, because today I think because of the paucity of time, we were not able to get the entire topic through your deliberation. So we are looking forward to your gracious presence one more time on LPC. Now, thank you so much. Now, coming to Vishal sir, I suppose this is your third stint on LPC. So what are your learnings today on LPC 126?
Arpan, the fact is this pharmaceutical industry is so wide and broad. Every session, you tend to learn new things and go when you deep dive. So, Jeremy presented the UK market. Some of the new things, although I'm present myself, but, the couple of regulations and the couple of transition tenders and all, I was even not aware of this. So, learning cannot stop. I'm looking forward to add, my presence as a viewer, as an audience to learn more things. And I try to be, present on every Sunday. I usually am here. So I look forward to keep on adding to my learning again and again.
Thank you so much, Vishalji. Yes, it is said that sharing is caring. And that is why let us keep on learning. And LPC provides that platform so that we can learn, unlearn, and relearn. Thank you. So now I'll come over to Mr. Saurabh. So Saurabh ji, what has been your learnings from LPC 126?
Thank you, Mr. Arpan. Just like it's Mr. Jeremy's debut in LPC, I believe it is LPC's debut in the regulated markets today. So I would like to start from thanking our respected speakers for their generous disposition today at an odd hour on Sunday morning. That takes a lot of efforts, and that shows your sincerity and commitment towards LPC. Thank you so much. I would like to also thank Mr. Praveen Pandey as my co-panelist. I always enjoy. Mr. Vishal, it has always been a pleasure interacting with you. Though we haven't met, but this LPC has given me an opportunity to interact with a lot of learned people like you. I would say that this was a very short session when it comes to, it has opened a Pandora box today, I must say. We have been receiving overwhelming response from our audiences from the Facebook and YouTube. And I believe this would motivate LPC to invite these two gentlemen again to discuss the markets and its aspects in detail. So it has been a very motivating experience for me today. Over to you, Mr. Apanji.
Thank you, Saurabh ji. In fact, yes, it's really a Herculean task for Mr. Jeremy and Mr. Vishal to sacrifice the Sunday morning sleep and get up very early to be a part of LPC 126. And definitely, so we are looking forward to you. Now coming to Praveen ji. So Praveen ji, what has been your learning?
Once again, thanks to everyone. Mostly, one the common statement is the people who are in sales, they work either by passion or by fear, but they, I think, forgot to add interest. You won't believe today we are talking about regulated market, and the queries, most of the queries, it has came, just I'll go with some names. Mr. Sandeep from Ghana, that is West Africa part. Dhananjay from Zambia, East African part. Kelly, Mr. Kelly from Ukraine, Abid from Uzbekistan, Ritu and Parna is from India. So it has been, reached the corner, and the people are showing their interest. For me, it's more than 100 episodes where I got connected directly or indirectly. Completed 2 years also, the part of LPC. I'm not comparing, but the fact today is awesome session for me. Even I never worked in regulated market, but I have learned, and I'm learning. I will keep learning from here. Definitely, it will add on some advantages my CV and as well as my career, personal as well as professional. So thank you so much. And as Mr. Arpan said, this is not the end. We would like to invite once again with added some more speakers for Europe, including Mr. Jeremy and Mr. Vishal. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you so
gentlemen.
much, Praveerji. Thank you so much, Praveerji. In fact, LPC has transcended the borders, the boundaries, and has brought us under one common platform, Life Pharma Coalition. And it has brought the world very close to each other. And that is why the international markets, which were once considered a taboo because of the less connectivity, has now become very open. So today's session, today's learnings are definitely a very worthwhile for taking this learning forward. So before we close for the day, it's once again a reminder to all our viewers the fact that we are still not over with COVID. So please let us maintain the COVID appropriate behavior of SMS, that is sanitization, mask and social distancing, along with the complete vaccination. And at the same time, let us try to keep our environment clean and green, because this is the best gift that we can give to our next generation. Please remember, there is no planet B. And at the end of the session, I try to narrate a story to bring a learning forward. And today's story goes like this. A dog lost his way and entered into a jungle. It was pretty frightened because it knew that it had to encounter wild animals. So while it was trying to find its way, it saw a tiger coming in front of it. The automatic reaction of the dog was getting frightened, but it knew that if it became frightened, it's going to lose its life. So immediately the dog tried to gather some pieces of bones, and without looking at the tiger, the dog said, "Oh, the tiger was lovely for lunch. I wish I got another tiger, so my lunch would be complete." Hearing this, the tiger halted and thought, "My goodness, we have people know me as a man eater, but this is a tiger eater, this dog," and it ran for its dear life. So the dog saved its life. Now a monkey, a very clever monkey, was sitting on a branch of a tree and watching all this. It thought that this clever dog has fooled the tiger. So let me make friends with the tiger by telling him how he has got fooled by the dog. And this tiger will become my friend, and I will always be happy because he will never attack me. So now what happened? This monkey went to the tiger and said that, "Come on, this dog has fooled you." The dog actually did not eat a tiger. It was just fooling you so that it can get rid of you. So the tiger got angry and said, "Is it so? Come with me. Let me kill the dog." Now the dog again saw the tiger coming with the monkey and thought that the monkey must have spilled the beans. Now what the dog did, it again gathered its wits and without looking at the tiger said, "I said that I had sent that clever monkey to that foolish tiger to bring him for my lunch. Wonder what's taking him so long." The tiger got really furious. It killed the monkey and ran for its dear life. Friends, in corporate parlance, crisis management plan is very important because it outlines how to respond to the critical situations. Sometimes a contingency plan is very necessary. But at the same time, we must always remember that in having a crisis management plan, only plan A is not enough because it may fail. So for that reason, always be ready with plan B because you never know when you require this. So thank you so much, friends. So for being such a wonderful audience to this live session of LPC 126. So this is Arpan Kumar Paul telling goodbye to all of you with a promise of reconnecting with you next Sunday at the same time with a new set of speakers, with a new set of thoughts, and with a new set of learning. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful Sunday and goodbye and namaste from the entire LPC team. Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Thank
friends.
you.
Thank
Good
you.
day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you so much, sir. So from here now ending this meeting.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vishali. Bye. See you.